Have you ever felt like you were unable to achieve something as good as others due to your identity? If so, you might be experiencing stereotype threat. My name is Emily Calkins, and today I'm going to be talking about the effects of stereotype threat. I believe that stereotype threat greatly affects people's ability to achieve things because they are unconsciously preoccupied by the negative stereotypes associated with their identity. In my presentation, I'm going to cover a brief explanation of the research I looked into, in the findings of said research, and how the stereotype threat has influenced an interpersonal relationship with my sister. First, let's look at the research. The article, Forewarning and Forearming Stereotype Threatened Students by McGlone and Aronson, investigated the performance of test takers after pointing out a negative or a positive stereotype correlating with a specific student's identities. This expands on the topic of stereotype from Chapter 4 about self-concept in our textbook. Stereotype threat is when a person conforms to a negative stereotype about their social group identity. Now that I've discussed stereotype threat, I'd like to speak more deeply on the subject of this study. The first hypothesis that the researchers made was that forewarning female students about the stereotype threat and then advising them just to suppress stereotype-related thoughts would worsen their scores. The researchers found that, in fact, telling the students to suppress stereotype thoughts did create a gap between female and male students, but this was only due to a drop in female scores. The second hypothesis that the researchers made was that when you forewarn female students about stereotype threat and then reminded them of a self-relevant positive stereotype, it would improve their math scores relative to the control condition. The final findings concluded that when women are reminded of achieved social categories, such as being a college student, over ascribed categories, such as their gender as female, their test scores improved relative to the control condition. Now that I have told you about the research findings, I'd like to tell you how it related to my life. The relationship that inspired this presentation is my younger sister. I have realized I've been placing her in a stereotype threat. She has dyslexia and it slows down her learning process. Because of that, I have expected that she would not be able to do things and subsequently talked down to her. After learning about the severity of stereotype threat and how it can impact people's lives, I have been more conscious on how I speak to her to make sure I'm not diminishing her. I expect my sister to have more confidence in herself while doing tasks now that I am giving her encouragement rather than doubt. To wrap up my presentation, I spoke on the effects of stereotype threat in inhibiting people's full ability to achieve things due to their self-relevant negative stereotypes. My presentation included an introduction to the research that I looked up on, the results of said research, and how it is relevant to my interpersonal relationship. The research I shared is super relevant because it shows you a way to combat stereotype and can help you next time you feel yourself doubting your ability due to your identity.